Talk about how far ahead he is than me. But he's doing a seminar tonight because we all know that you have to run into different types of speaking experience. Sometimes they're short speeches, sometimes they're longer, sometimes they're training sessions, sometimes they're seminars. So today, I ask that you suspend disbelief and imagine you are an avid game player. You love to learn new things and how to associate those skills with life. Steve Brown has been a gamesman for most of his life, and 16 years ago he discovered something, a new love, that changed his thinking and his way of life. Steve has spent many hours, days and nights circled with other players, listened to hours of instructions, read numerous books and shared his knowledge and skills with new and old players alike. He has definitely persevered. Today he's here to share a small portion of what he's learned with all of us. He wants you to know America's game. Mr. Steve Brown.
Thank you all and good evening. Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster. I do appreciate that. We have, all of us have come a long way in our journey, and we're still traveling on that journey. But 16 years ago, I had ended a journey, and at that point I was starting a new one. At one time in my life, in another career, in another lifetime, I was a police officer in the city of Morgantown. Full time, I worked 6 to 6 at night, and I saw the worst of the city, and at the same time, the best of it. When bad things happen, you meet good people. But the mayor and I had one too many fights about a few things. I'm pretty much libertarian, and he was a hardcore. I don't want to downgrade him. He was going through a lot of issues himself, so I don't want that to dwell on it. But it caused a change in my life because he decided that I didn't need to be a police officer anymore, and I totally agreed with him. I did not decide to be a police officer somewhere else, even though I was offered a job somewhere else. I didn't want to be. My time was up. So I was sitting in front of the TV, and I was watching the Travel Channel, and I realized, what am I watching? What am I doing? I was watching America's Game. Some of you are thinking, I don't get it. What is America's Game? Well, right now, it's played by 20% of the population, and more has played it in their lifetime, but 20% of the population plays it regularly. There's been variations of the game that date back to 1803, and at that point, we're also looking at the World Series of this game has gone on since 1970. The first televised was in 1973. And each year, parts of this game, 70 million of these pieces are sold every year. And that last clue should key you into it. Spades are royalty. Diamonds are merchants. Clubs are peasant, and hearts, that's the clergy. We're poker, guys. I play poker, and I dream of poker way too much sometimes. I play a lot of it. And unfortunately, for me, I should say, I stopped playing about 2.5 years ago. I've since started playing it again because I just missed it. There was something missing. The feel of the chips, the feel of the felt underneath your hand, the perseverance for playing 8 hours around the table with the same people. And the look of some guy's sweaty face as you take a pot off of him. I missed that. I missed the feel of all of those things. And so I decided, and I'm fortunate enough that my fiance gave me, she was like, no, you need to go do it. And so I do it. So this man is one of the oldest living legends that there are. His name is Doyle Brunson. He has written 7 books on different stages and different styles of poker. He is considered the godfather, and he's been playing since 1950. This is back in the time when you didn't go to a casino and play poker because there were not casinos around at the time. Not the same way they are now. This is a time when you had to get into a game. You had to know a guy who knows the password to a back room. And this was also at a time when they would get raided. So this guy's seen it on many different levels, And he's a 2-time World Series of Poker main event winner, and he's won 10 other bracelets besides that. He is considered the most knowledgeable person on the planet when it comes to poker of all forms. But why poker? What is it about this game that draws people in? Why does it draw me in? Well, for one thing, it's a game of skill, and most people worry about it. They're like, no, it's involving gambling. No. Chance is a factor. Luck is a factor, but when it comes to truly making the correct decisions, there are different values to the cards you have. And if there's a different value, that means you don't have to play those cards, much like life. We know that heroin is bad for us. Do we do it? Hopefully not. In the long term, it's a bad game. But in the short run, you say, no, I'm not going to do this. Because the chances of doing something bad on heroin, or being an alcoholic, or taking opiates, in the long term, usually hurt you when it's done detrimentally. So we don't do that. Same thing with poker. I know that pocket ace is a really good starting hand, so I play them. 2 and 7 is the worst starting hand. I don't play those. That's where the skill comes into this game. And also, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to get started. It takes a minute to learn and a lifetime to master. You'll always run into somebody that knows something better than you. Or you'll run into somebody that definitely knows somebody better than you, and he'll remind you of that all the time. Because there's some people that just have to remind you, hey, I'm doing better. Much like life. We always run into that guy that's got to poke at you. Well, this is a microcosm of life, in my opinion. Poker gives us this whole microcosm that we can draw from. Skill is important, but there's a healthy dose of luck. Now, yes, I know I just said how skillful it is, but sometimes percentages hit you. In life, percentages hit us. And I can go on and on describing the percentage chance of somebody gaining or getting cancer. What are the percentage chances of you making it alive from here to your house? We don't take that in consideration all day. What we should, if you really want to think about it, because the percentage chance of getting hit by a car is much greater than winning the lottery. But yet, we drive everywhere. And so because of that, that's something to take into consideration. What are the chances? If he had just looked, he wouldn't have run into me. If I had not gone to that second stoplight, and if I had turned the first one, would I have been in that accident? That luck, that dose of percentages that screws with us so often. That's what poker reminds us of. Is that I've got this. I'm 95%, I'm going to win this hand. Yes, 95% of the time you do, but that 5% hurts. When that 5%, that guy takes your pot, that you're counting that chips. What happens in life when you're just walking down the street and somebody somewhere else does something stupid and you get hurt because of somebody else's negligence? That's life. It does happen. And this is why I love this game, because I can watch it and sit back and correlate this happening to this happening. And it's about people. It's about you and your opponents. This isn't a house game. It's not blackjack. It's not craps. If you're sitting down at the poker table, I'm against the other guy. My decisions matter as well as his. He can make good decisions. He can make bad decisions. But at the end of the night, the house itself does not care about the hand that was played. Now, that being said, if it's a casino, they do take a cut. But that's for hosting the game. But the house themselves does not care how the game progresses. They want to make sure that everybody's okay. Everybody's played right. And there's nothing as exciting as poker. I can tell you my heart's raced, my heart's pumped. I can feel the blood tingling in my fingers. And then all of a sudden, snap, the hand's over. And now it's back to zero, and you start playing again. But honestly, I'm human, and that's not really what happens. I'm remembering an hour later how somebody didn't play right, and I'm the guy that's paying for it. Again, that chance, Profit comes from people. Doesn't it always? No matter what business you have, your job deals with people. In poker, we make money from or with, depending on the circumstances of the game, how people play. That person and I are playing a game. Either it's one-on-one, which is called heads up, or it's in a group. I got a full ring game, meaning we got multiple people. So you have more people to interact with as you play your cards, as you play the pot, as you play the person. Doyle Brunson brags that if he can see your eyes, he doesn't have to see your cards. He doesn't care. Now, there is honor in gambling. My mother was a saint of a woman, and I loved her very much. But when she found out I was playing poker, that was bad. She still loved me. She let me do it. She didn't yell at me. She didn't scream and throw a fit. But she was not happy when I said, I'm playing poker. Now, Dad's a pragmatic person. All he had to say was, are you losing? And then I pull out my cash and I'm okay. He said, no problem, you're fine. But just know, you've got a chance of losing. And obviously we all do. Such is life. We all do have the chance of losing. Do we make the proper choices? Do we have the skill to go along in this life? We have to treat each other right. We have to be good on our word. We have to be honest, honorable people. There are some people that will argue, no, because somebody's there to cut your throat. Well, maybe so, but it's not us. We treat each other good. We treat each other honorable, and we keep our word. Because if you can't have a straight, fair poker game, then is it really a truly skilled game? No, because it's slanted to somebody else. And we as Americans don't like people to take advantage of things. It's America's game. If it's an upfront, even game, and if it's level, we want a part of it. But if somebody's getting screwed over, we don't want anything about it. You'll never be able to play or gamble with people if you become known for not being true to your word. That says so much, because how many people do we know that you'll never do business with? You don't want to talk to them. You don't want to deal with them. Do you want to sit down in a poker game with them? No. But do you also want them keeping your kids? No. That's something to keep in mind. Just because it's a gambling game does not mean there's no honor in it. So that's something that, thankfully, before my mother passed, I was able to show. She started to understand it. She started to deal with it. I actually got her playing online poker for a little bit. It was an interesting week, let me tell you. You want to teach to learn. I have said it before. You want to invest, learn, and teach in your life. You want to, whatever you learn, you want to share it with other people. You want to help other people to learn it, because what it does is it helps you learn it deeper. There was a time I could quote you every percentage that was out. I could tell you the hand rankings. I've let myself let it down a little bit. I just kind of bundle them now. I don't need to keep every single one of them. But I took joy in showing the game to people. I took joy in watching them across the table as they played, because I like the microcosm side of it, comparing it to things in life. We would talk for hours around the table. This compares to this. That was part of the big deal, is the people you're playing with, the things you're learning from those people. We're teaching each other. It is a kind of there is a dichotomy here, though, and let me explain. As a poker player who plays a lot, who reads the books, who watches the videos, who watches the shows on TV, who keeps track of which pro does what and how their hand signals are and what they're doing, you don't like to teach the game while you're playing. The reason is you don't want them getting better than you at the time. Now later on, if you've got friends, then yes, you compare notes. You say, well, Charlie over there, you got to watch him, because if you're not, put your chips in a certain way, he's got it. Okay? But you do that away from the table with your friends. You don't tell Charlie. Charlie will get better. You don't tap the glass. And tapping the glass is you don't want to upset the fish. I know that's an old con artist term, but that's what you didn't want to do, is you don't want to tell people how to get better if you're playing against them a lot. But again, your friends, you want to, because you're friends. Think back to 10 seconds before something was obvious to understand as the beginner thinks. And what that means is, do you remember the time, as an example, when you didn't know how to ride a bicycle? Do you remember the time when you didn't know how to swim? Do we remember when it scared us to get in a car and drive? So you always think about that when you teach people. For me, getting up and talking is second nature. Doesn't bother me. So when I try to teach somebody how to speak in public and be a public speaker, it's a little tough when they say, I'm so scared. So I try to keep that in mind. I try to think that everything is now obvious was once obscure. I try to keep that in mind. They are at that point right before. But 10 seconds later, if we can get them to the other side, they'll realize just how important that is. Because there are some of you right now, if I say, hey, does a flush beat a full house? Some will say yes, some will say no. Some will be right, some will be wrong. But when do you figure that out of that obscure point? When the answer is obvious. Are you ready to win? How many people in this world do you know that no matter what you do for them, they are not going to win at their whatever they're after? And I don't mean poker. I mean anything. Some people have such a negative attitude about life and about the outcome of things, they're going to tell you exactly how it's not going to work. They're going to tell you how it's not going to work for them, and if somebody else does it, well, there's got to be a catch to it. You have to be ready to win. And there's these other ones here, like, are you on drugs and alcohol? Can you think properly? Now, I'm not saying that's important, because do you make important decisions after a night of binge drinking? Hopefully you don't binge drink, but hey, that's your thing, whatever. But do you do that? When I was a police officer, I used to make the statement, my job was not to punish people. I took great pride in that. My job is not to hurt people. My job is at that point to think for those people. Because 9 times out of 10, they're having the worst day of their life. Either they're getting arrested for the first time or 5th time. Somebody's died. They've been in a car wreck. They're having a terrible night. So my job was to make sure that I could think for them at that point, either to get them home safe, get them under control, depending on what they're doing, or if need be, they're going to jail. But I have to take that in consideration. So was that person ready to win? No. They're having a terrible bad night. They're on drugs, they're on alcohol, they're stoned out of their gourd. Who knows what's wrong with them? But they're not ready to win. But do you feel that you're going to win? Do I sit down at the table going, you know what, I'm just going to sit here and see what happens? The times that I have said that in the past, the money that I'm putting down on the table, it goes away. Because I'm sitting there expecting, okay, I'm going to get lucky, or something's going to happen, and I'll just let life happen. And if I let life happen, it's going to happen around me, and it's going to go right by me. My money's going to be gone. I'll have no prospects. I'll have no incentive because I'm not ready to win. I'm just letting it go. Are you emotionally upset? Think about this one. You wake up, terrible day. Life is dragging you down. Do you want to call people? No. Sometimes you got to fake it until you make it, of course. But do you really want to do it? And then flip it around. What if you're having a wonderful day and somebody comes up and they're just having the worst day of their life and they're yelling at you, they're calling you names, they're screaming at you? Do you take it personally? No. You stay ready to win. Don't let them take away your power. You are the one that can win. You're the one that remembers, I'm ready to win. Keep that in mind all the time, because their power cannot take your power away. Now, you got to leave your personal problems at home. This is kind of close to that emotionally upset part, because this is a guy that Doyle had to deal with at one point. Watched him across the table. The guy was playing good, young guy, had a good role going, and all of a sudden his girlfriend comes up, starts throwing a fit, breaks up with him right there at the table. Within 30 minutes, the guy had lost everything. Things were bad. And then all of a sudden, the girlfriend shows back up. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I was totally upset. They make up. They're back to normal. He buys in. He's thinking, hey, I'm in a good mood. The guy loses that. He's still dwelling on the fact the problems had happened 30 minutes ago, an hour ago. Maybe they've had other issues that it's dwelling on, but his mind could not get through that. He was letting it invade into his mind. He couldn't leave those personal problems at home. No matter what your life is going through, there are times you have to shut off that personal side. Because if it's bothering whatever you're doing so much, you either need to disconnect from it in some way or learn to deal with your personal problems. And that's throughout life. It's not just at the poker game. Quitting while you're ahead. I almost didn't put this in here. And the reason is because in real life, there is a way to quit while you're ahead. I mean, we know quite a few very successful actors who have said, you know what, I made my $10 million, I'm going home, I'm fine. We see some lottery winners who have done that. Oh, I'm done, I'm going home. But unfortunately, the average person has a real tough time with this, and because they're not really in a situation where they can just quit and say, okay, I've got my nest egg, I'm done. But I think to look at this one as quitting while you're ahead. Sometimes we win an argument. Okay, we won an argument. But do we dig at whoever we're arguing with? We kind of nudge them a little more. Hey, I was right about this. I was right about this. Hopefully you don't, because that's kind of being a jerk. But the reason you want to quit while you're ahead is sometimes you're just doing good and you want to keep that positivity going. Now, Doyle, on the other hand, it's the exact opposite. Doyle says if you're ahead, you keep playing. You keep pushing. You keep that momentum going. You keep that positive energy flowing. That's when you want to keep pushing. And at the poker game, when you're playing person to person, you've got to realize some people, if you're sitting there winning and you're accumulating chips and you're winning pots and things are going good and you're scaring people away from a hand, and they look at you and they don't want to mess with you, you can win a lot more pots because of their belief system. They are having emotional issues. They don't want to bother with you because you're doing so good. When you're ahead, you push. When things are going great, you push. Now, right now, we're getting ready for our open house. We've got a lot of people here. We had a lot of people last week. We had a lot of people the week before. We're doing wonderful. Now's the time to push. Now's the time to make sure that people see us as a team and a family, and we show people, look how great this is. We don't quit while we're ahead. We don't rest on our laurels, and we keep moving. Because profit comes from people. That's what we're here for. We have to be nice to people. We have to be good to people. That's where the honor is. We're here to teach. We're here to learn. And as we learn, we teach some more. And as they walk in the door, we teach them. And we spread what we know, and we let them know that, we're going to be ready to win. We keep going. And I'm pretty sure I'm good at it again, like I said, leaving the personal problems at home. You'll never hear me complain too much in this room, or the room over there, or the room over there, or Greenview Hospital. But that's because I want to keep it separate. I want us to stay positive. I want us to keep pushing. I don't want to quit while we're ahead. I want to keep going with this family and with this group so we can expand what we have and to help other people. But as Doyle says, I now see what the really important things in life are, and they don't relate to what I do for a living. It doesn't matter what you're doing for a living. It really doesn't. But are you good to people? Are you honest to people? Do you want to help people? Does your family come first? Does your knowledge help other people? Do you expand what you have so that you can go beyond that? A lot of poker players say, and he's one of them actually, I've seen interviews, that if you look back on what they've really accomplished, they just made money for themselves and their family, which is good. I'm not going to complain about that. But a lot of them, once they get farther up and they make a lot of money, they start donating to charity. They start being a backer for local churches. They start becoming a backer for nonprofits because they've done all this that they can. They've got this. They've accumulated this money, So what do you do with it? Do you just sit on it and buy a new toy? It doesn't help anybody. So when you look back on what you're doing, you see the important things in your life. Does it really come down to, does it relate to what you're doing for a living? Or does it relate to helping other people? And that is why I believe poker is the American game. Mr. Toastmaster.
Great job, Steve.